Yeah, started. So we are in recording mode right now.
Okay. That you can edit it later. You may start recording little later.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. I welcome all the panelists and the attendees out here for this webinar on pharma, the resurgence of pharma. Okay. I would like to welcome Mr. Kaushik Desai. Mr. Kaushik has over 30 years of multifunctional experience in reputed pharma companies. And in his career span, he has been actively involved in management of both green and brown field projects, product development, technology transfer, plant operations, exports, etc. So welcome, sir. Welcome to the webinar.
Thank you.
Then I would also like to introduce Mr. Rahul Guha. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Mr. Rahul is the managing director and partner in the Mumbai office of the Boston Consulting Group. He leads the healthcare and life finances practice and is the recruiting director for BCG in India. He has particular expertise in the area of Salesforce transformation, commercial effectiveness, portfolio selection, and go-to marketing strategies. So thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you so much.
Our third panelist, Mr. Sunil Daga. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Mr. Sunil is the Senior Executive Vice President at Kotak Mahindra Bank. He heads working capital and business loans at the bank. So we welcome you, sir, to this webinar. And just a word to all the attendees that Mr. Sudarshan Jain could not be here as he had to attend a very important government meeting. So with this, I would ask Mr. Ashish Desai from Kotak Mahindra to, present how Kotak Bank is supporting the pharma sector in their journey. So, Mr. Ashish, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Good evening to all. My name is Ashish Desai, and I am a part of Working Capital Group at Kotak Mahindra Bank. This group is headed by Mr. Sunil Daga. He also is one of the panelists today. It's pleasure to speak on resurgent pharma, the theme. So to say, the word resurgent in itself is very motivating in current times, especially when it means that it's beginning of a thing which is again becoming popular. So but here I would like to say that at Kotak Mahindra Bank, right from our inception, we have been actively engaged with all layers of value chain in the pharma industries, and we continue to also remain very focused, very dedicated to this overall segment, which is extremely important in any nation's prosperity. Having said so, it is also important to discuss that past few years we have seen some headwinds and obviously challenges, and this has come from different directions. Pricing pressure from US, which continues to be a very key export market for the Indian pharma companies and also mid-sized formulation companies. Margin pressures which were built up in India. We have also seen disruption in value chain due to regulation and increased scrutiny. And last but not the least, we have seen some new business models, both in the physical distribution as well as online distribution model, which has created some kind of disruptions, as it has happened in other industries also. When we spoke to our esteemed customers who are from the entire value chain of this industry, what we got to know is that the net impact of all this has resulted into growth being at the same level, more or less at the same levels or slightly elevated levels, but margin has definitely come under some kind of pressure. However, forward looking, we at Kotak believe that it is safe to assume that overall growth prospect in the pharma industries is fairly attractive, and it is going to be one of the key segments as it has always been in the entire nation development. Hardik, we can go to the next slide. If you see the concept, its advantage India when it comes to pharma, like so to say in software services, cost efficiency we always had. More than me as a banker, all of you who are attendees today would know more than me on this. But I would like to kind of dwell upon on the second parameter, which is on the economic drivers. The economic driver is very, very important for any industry to flourish in a country. I would just give one thought process here, which is from Adam Smith. Adam Smith was a very renowned economician in the Victorian age, and he has written one very good book which says the wealth of nations. Now, according to Adam Smith, any country can prosper or any industry can prosper if you have, if you can tick the 4 boxes. Now, which are these boxes? First, you need population. So it's a big tick mark for when it comes to India. We are the second populous country in the world. Second is, this population should also have a propensity to consume. So India, if you see, we have varieties of customers, which is there across the ranges. So you have customers who are driving Mercedes also and high-end cars also, and you have an equal demand for lower-end cars also. And same way it is applicable to healthcare sectors, where people fall back to high-end healthcare services also, and there is equal demand from the local dispensaries and gully dispensaries also. Third is entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship is something that runs in our blood, so it's again a big tick mark. And fourth is you need innovation. So pharma, the innovation has been always there, because of which the pharma industry in India is where it is today. The second point is on the policy support. Due to the pandemic and certain geopolitical reasons, what we have seen is that the policy actions, which largely takes time, is happening at a much faster rate. So to list out few of the policy actions, biggest is the tax in corporate tax rate cut. It was a very big decision that the government took, and along with that, we have FDI rules being eased off in few of the sectors, especially in pharma sector. And along with that, we have some social schemes being rolled out in form of Ayushman Bharat and various other state government schemes. So all this has resulted into the end public of India and population of India getting access to the relevant requirement of their particular pharma needs. Increasing investments we have seen is happening rapidly. Largely it is because of, again, few of the geopolitical reasons, because large formulation companies who were highly dependent on few of the countries for their APIs are now thinking of plan B, whether they should start a backward integration. So to say, these formulation companies, any which ways, when they started, were all largely API companies. Now they are saying that, after creating the brand, after creating the market share, after creating the distribution network, we are still dependent on few of the countries for our APIs. Is it the right time to go and do that backward integration, which will again require a lot of capital and everything? But that is happening. It is happening by choice or it is happening by compulsion, but it is happening, which is in a way good. And a lot of initiative under Atmanirbhar Bharat will help that initiative. Hardik, we can go to the next slide. Infographics. If you see, this is largely what we have discussed in terms of the market share that we have in exports, the government expenditure, how significantly it has increased over the years on healthcare, and how the Indian pharma companies, forex revenues have increased. Along with that, the government initiatives which we discussed, Pradhan Mantri Jan Shuddhi Prayojan Yojana, National Health Policy, Pharma Vision, and all the relevant state initiatives. We can go to the next slide.
Yeah,
Hardik, we can go to the next slide.
I guess Hardik has dropped out or something like that has happened. He can't change his slides.
So what should we do? Should we wait for 1 minute or I take over?
Yeah, if you can take over.
Okay. We have a technical glitch here. It says that you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing.
Okay,
So
I'll check. Now try.
Yeah, we can see you, but we cannot see the screen.
Yeah, now can you start the share screen?
So you want me to start?
Yeah, because Hardik has, I think he's not here.
Yeah, I'll do that. Just a check, is my screen visible?
Yes.
So this constitutes the entire pharma value chain, right from commodity chemicals to advanced intermediaries, APIs, formulation, generic drugs, branded drugs. We at Kotak Mahindra Bank continues to engage with all the players in this entire value chain, right from the lending proposition, meeting their day-to-day requirements in the banking space, their personal side bankings. Our corporate banking also engage with them, with the high-end formulation companies and all the branded drug manufacturers, taking care of their M&A and all the mergers and acquisitions. So as a bank, we continue to engage with the entire value chain. This. You will have to give me a minute. It is not going down. Can you see the next screen? Is my next screen visible?
Yeah.
So this is having discussed pharma. We'll quickly discuss on the bank and the journey. So Kotak as a group started in 1985. It has been now close to 5 years that we have been around, and with every passing year we have grown stronger. So right now we are present in India across 1400 branches, and we are present in almost every state. Landmark was our merger with ING Vysya Bank, which we did in the year 2015. So Kotak predominantly was always a bank which was strong in West, Central, and North India. South, South India, we were expanding our network. And at the right time, this merger happened, which gave us strong footing in South India also. So, as it calls in the Indian banking industry, it is known as the merger of equals. So, post this merger, we are significantly present with a strong retail distribution branch network of close to 1,400 branches. So, like we discussed, pharma value chain, this is our bank's value chain, right from corporate banking, where we do all kind of corporate loans, state finance, and all cash management and other services. We also do commercial banking, giving extended support to the agri finance, the tractor finance, commercial vehicles, and all other products. Along with that, consumer banking, and we also have all our uh, other subsidiary companies where we do distribution businesses. Like we are the AMCs. We have our own company, the AMC Life Insurance Company, General Insurance Company. Kotak is a very well-known brand in terms of equity trading. So we have our securities company which have a fairly significant market share in both BSE and NSE. Along with that, investment banking is one area where Kotak is market leader, and broking as well as asset reconstruction business. If you see the second part of the same slide, you know, uh, you know, we are present in each and every category of banking. If you see right from SME to emerging corporates, large corporates, very large corporates, we are present. Along with that, the category of customers is right there on the right hand side, right from mass affluent. So if you see the pyramid which says that generally a bank will have all this category of a customer. So some banks are focused on mass affluent, HNIs. So we would like to place us the small dot that you see in between is somewhere where we want to place us. So where we cater to the mid-size segment. We have never called ourselves a mass affluent bank, but we have never, on the other hand, we have called ourselves as a only HNI dominated or a wealth management bank. So that's on our Kotak Mahindra Bank's value chain. Quickly coming on to the last slide, what we call is as our value proposition. If you see, the entire banking in today's banking can be divided into these four quadrilaterals. One is the banking solutions that you give to your customers. So, for the audience, we have best in class current account features. Not only that, we have a unique proposition in form of active money, where all the high balances lying in your current account will also earn for you, because we have a automatic FD facility, automatic TD sweep facility, which we call active money, and it's really automatic. It's really online. You don't have to give any instruction. The only instruction that you give is at the time of account opening, where you decide a threshold, and above that threshold, the system automatically transfers money which are there in your current account to fixed deposit account, which means that for accounts which has high current account balance, you would continue to earn interest in your current accounts also. Along with that, treasury advisory services, online FX booking, smart collect, corporate link business, CMS net IT platforms. These are our banking solutions. Digital is the name of the game. Everybody of us across, irrespective of what industry we belong to, digital is the solution. Digital enablation, adapting to the digital solution is paramount important in today's time. So we also are one of the bank which is known as the leader in digital solutions. So we do a lot of our activity. We have migrated into a digital platform. Some of the activities like, this is especially for our people who are seeking loans from the bank, that you don't need to give us any financials, any financial documents. We have this platform of e-financials where we can collect your documents on the e-financial background. Along with that, we have introduced kiosk services, and now we have gone step ahead further where we are doing our loan disbursement also on the digital platform. Risk coverage is important today as it was not in the previous time because of the pandemic. So risk coverage in all forms, be it in personal forms where we do insurance, promoter insurance through our Kotak Life Insurance companies, and along with that the general insurance part where you cover your stock, you cover your property, and you cover your other movable assets that we do through our Kotak General Insurance Company. Along with that, the last point of my presentation is the funding solutions. So we belong to Working Capital Group. Along with that, as a bank, we have significant presence in all form of lending. So right from cash credit to overdraft to funding your M&A requirements to funding your capex, either a forward integration or a backward integration, or just buying out of another companies, that capex. Also we fund term loans, foreign currency term loans, especially for the pharma companies who are big exporters. For them we have term loan in foreign currency. Along with that, we have facilities, especially this is for the merchants and traders who imports APIs and API solutions and other active raw material for pharma, and then they further sell it to the formulation companies. For them, we have facilities of a buyer's credit, wherein you can get the credit in the underlying currency of your import, either a dollar or a euro. Will give that. The resultant effect of this is that you would get fund at a much lower cost. Along with that, WCDL and FCDL facilities, which will ensure that despite having INR facilities, you will continue to earn the benefit of short-term interest rates, and it continues to generally come at much lesser rate than your normal cash credit and overdraft facilities. So as a bank, we would like to present us to the entire audiences. Some of the audiences would be from representing formulation companies, some of them would be traders, some of them would be the pharma suppliers or high-end pharma distributors, or some of them would be mid-sized pharma companies. We propose ourselves as a strong bank across this entire value chain, and we can take care any of your banking requirement, right from the lending side to the funds management side to your day-to-day business operation sides. You can bank on us, and we have been very, very optimistic about the segment as a whole. We continue to associate with the segment. We have customers across the entire geography in the pharma space, and it continues to be one of our key focus segment. That's it from my side. Thank you for giving this opportunity, and I apologize for slight technical hitch that we had overcome in between. Thank you for hearing me patiently.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish. If you can just close your screen sharing.
I just did that.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, coming back to the discussion, the first topic what we are going to talk about is the emergence of pharma sector as the leading MSME sector in India. So I would like to start with Mr. Kaushik Desai on what are the factors that are driving the market, and what is in it for the small and medium business pharma houses who are in the business, and how can they join and be a part of this pharma resurgence? We have all the small and medium business houses who want to be a part of this. How can they what is the status today, and how can they be a part of this resurgence which the pharma sector is seeing? Sir, you are muted.
Okay, thank you, Prashant. And good evening and welcome to all the participants. I see many familiar faces in the group. But before we go to MSME, just let me say brief about this COVID-19, how it has affected us. This pandemic has been unprecedented. And today we are in something that we have never experienced. The importance of digitization and automation has played a very major role and shown its importance. The way we interact today has changed more than one can imagine. And we are practically living in digital world. We are spending more time communicating in the virtual world than the physical one. This evolving scenario is expected to continue even the post-COVID scenario. We all need to change our working style and the approach towards our day-to-day work. It has also brought unique challenges which are not even thought of. All businesses are affected and machinery sector is not an exception. IPMMA, which is Indian Pharma Machine Manufacturers Association, which mainly consists of members from MSME sector, barring few places. And during this period, they have suffered the most, mainly on account of complexity in supply chain, workforce availability, and cash flow. The pandemic has caused major disruptions to economies, health systems, production and supply of commodities and health products, including bulk drugs, finished products, medical devices, and allied sector, supporting products like spare parts, packaging materials, etc. These issues has not deterred pharma and machinery sector in rising to the occasion in maintaining uninterrupted supply of medicines, not only in India, but to the entire world. MSME has played a major role in this mission. MSME is the largest sector of employment generation, and 60% of the products are supplied through this sector. Maybe more than 60%. I may be a little conservative on this. The recent revision of the classification of MSME is expected to help this sector considerably in claiming incentives. Not many big players have come under a medium scale, and medium scale has become small scale. So it's going to definitely grow the MSME sector in particular. The growth enablers are technology, finance, and enhancement of competitiveness. One positive outcome of this pandemic is that all stakeholders, including government, have come together on a common platform in framing supporting policies to mitigate the ongoing challenges. The initiatives of cluster development like Pharma Park under Pharma Techno Park scheme and building innovation centers will support MSME sector to a great extent. In post-COVID scenario, MSME will have to invest in upskilling the available workforce and simultaneously work towards upgrading technology and at the same time maintain quality and continued compliance. IPMMA is a very strongly working in the area of technology, which supports MSME sector both in terms of availability and affordability. Government of India has recently announced PLI scheme, that's a production link incentive scheme for pharma, and MSME sector actually in fact further looking forward to relaxation of some of the clause like minimum net worth of 30% in putting up facility for key starting materials, API and drug intermediates. If this comes, then MSME sector will definitely benefit a lot and contribute in the growth of this entire objective. Government of India has taken several positive steps in past 4 months, and we sincerely hope that the same speed of decisions and policy framework to continue even post-pandemic to support MSME sector, and IPMA is very optimistic. These are my initial views on this MSME. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, Mr. Kaushik. I would like to come to Mr. Rahul. So your views on, as an analyst and, your views on this particular topic.
Sure. Thanks, Prashant. Just to share a bit, first, welcome to all the panelists. I represent the Boston Consulting Group and the pharmaceutical practice for BCG. So I'll give a perspective. It is, of course, my own perspective, but give a perspective a little bit about the question that you asked, what are some of the growth headwinds. I think, look, the pharma industry in India has always had a lot of growth headroom. If you look at the per capita spending of medicines in India, it is $20. which is far below, any country average per capita. In the US, it's in the thousands. So, there are many factors less in that. The second is, I think this COVID pandemic also has created a lot of awareness about health and the cost of poor health. I use the analogy that if COVID is the border, then diabetics and hypertensives are almost very close to the border. And so generally people have got a large awareness about health and how, particularly some of these comorbidities around obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and things like that, and its particular things. So there also I see a lot of momentum on that front. And of course, India has always had very affordable medicines, right? So from that side, I think we have always been globally competitive, and even in India been able to meet the demand of good quality affordable medication in India. So I think there is a macroeconomic story that really supports very good growth headroom. And I think going forward, most companies have recognized the opportunity. The demand continues to be stable relative to other, categories for sure. And so companies have been continuously thinking about the investment and particularly where do they think about, some of the money. So I know many of the participants here will be from the MSME sector. So I think, there will be a lot of investment in the raw material supply space. So if you're thinking of participating, finding, let us say, I would not say the large key starting materials, but even in the normal materials and excipients and consumption of that, there is certainly opportunity. And as Mr. Desai rightly highlighted, even in the equipment supply for that manufacturing, I think there will be huge opportunity coming up in packaging and ancillary services as people ramp up the capacities and look at that. And then, of course, historically, there have always been great opportunities in the services space. Think about distribution, on some of the services. Think of it as, security services, all the other services that typically get provided to pharma companies. So I think those areas are really where I believe some of the opportunities will lie for the medium and small enterprises. And I am actually quite bullish about the next, I would say, 24 months and even beyond that when it comes to the pharma industry. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you, sir. So coming to Mr. Sunil, sir, as from a financial sector, how do you see the growth of this pharma, MSME sector?
Yeah, hi Prashant, and so I know my colleague Ashish did cover about what we as a bank feel about this sector, and we have always been pretty positive on this sector, and I think, and probably rightly so, because it has a lot of stability over last so many years in the way some of these pharma companies have evolved themselves over a bit of time, and with this pandemic, probably it is just fastening the whole process of the multiple opportunities which will arise within this particular industry. Just to take further extension to pharma, I think with pharma, I think healthcare is probably the other piece which we as a institution are extremely positive on. So pharma coupled with healthcare, when I say healthcare, it's about healthcare infrastructure. It's about, and for us, it's about two things. What is probably hastening the whole process. One is definitely the pandemic, but the other piece is also, that is Rahul also said that, the pharma spend for every Indian is today compared to any developed country is fairly low. Thus, I think as income level rises in a particular country, I think, it is bound to grow. Second, I think as the penetration of health insurance gets deeper, so my sense is, that itself will be a very, very large figure for this whole piece to grow. So I think coupled with affordability, one is that we are very, very competitive and healthcare is affordable. Second, I think access to health insurance would probably, just take it probably to the next level. So we are fairly, constructive on this whole space for next, probably whole decade, probably. I think this is seems to be extremely a great story and great sector, to lend to. Uh, there would be disruption which we see and which has been, the case in every industry. But I'm sure that every businessman who operates in this space, knows the risk on which they operate and these disruptions. And probably the disruptions will not cause too much of a panic in terms of change in business models. I think both will coexist, whether it is a digital world and a physical world within the pharma space. So I think it won't be either or. To that extent, I think it is fairly stable as a segment.
Thank you, sir. Coming to Mr. Rahul, there's been a lot of talk about research and development recently, in the pharma sector. And India is supposed to be the largest provider of generic drugs globally. And we are ranked 10th globally in terms of value and 3rd in terms of volumes. So where do we stand today in terms of becoming a global leader, and how do we the research and development, which has been in the last 6 to 8 months, what are your views on that?
Thank you, Prashant, for the question. Look, I think when it comes to manufacturing, we are a global leader. As you rightly pointed out, we're the 3rd largest by volume, and maybe 10th by value. But certainly, I think everyone recognizes India as one of the destinations of choice if you're going to source pharmaceutical drugs. And, I think almost every country has some agency or the other that is represented in India to evaluate and approve products from India. But my honest belief is in R&D, we have a long way to go. I think in R&D, we are still, if in manufacturing, we are at PhD level, I think in R&D, we are still in school. And in that front, there are a lot of things that need to come in place to support R&D in India. I think firstly, R&D ecosystem has to be in place itself, right? I mean, if you look at, if tomorrow you want to develop an innovative drug in India, I mean, unless you are of the level of a Sun Pharma or something like that, it is very difficult to have all the capabilities to develop a drug discovery program in India. I think also, in many cases, innovation from a government point of view also needs to be rewarded, right? I think in many cases you may do innovations in the product or innovations in bringing new drugs to market, but if the market is not developed to a certain extent, and particularly if there is very little, I would say, rewards for innovation, then people will not spend in R&D as well. And I think we all need to recognize that pharma R&D is a risky business, right? It is not a very straightforward business like drug manufacturing, where if you manufacture the drug and you sell it properly, you will make your returns. But when it comes to R&D, it is a bit of a hit and miss, right? The product can fail in any stage of the development process. So I think the government also needs to realize on many fronts, it's risky, and therefore some kind of cushion needs to be provided, either in terms of accelerated depreciation, which I think the government provided for a long time, but now is withdrawn. But also many of the other elements in terms of just supporting pharma organizations to be able to fund their R&D in an innovative manner. So net, my summary at least is, look, it is a good concept, but we are a long way away from competing globally on the R&D space.
Okay, thank you, sir. So someone coming from the manufacturing sector for pharma, Mr. Kaushik, what kind of support are you looking at from the the government sector?
No, I understand, because I have dual role, like machinery as well as the pharma professional, and I'm missing Sudarshan Jain actually today. You have taken up most of my points, which I would have been just supported him. Anyway, as rightly said, India is labeled as a pharmacy of the world and exporting to 200 plus countries. India is looked upon by entire world for supply of affordable drugs and vaccines. We have scale of volume, capacity, and above all, capability. Indian pharma sector is way ahead in vaccine research. And as all of us know, 3 Indian companies are already in various phases of clinical trials for potential candidates. But we need to do much more to achieve global leadership in pharma. I have a few observations as under. First, we need to look for the best practices across globe and try to implement. Government as well as pharma companies, they travel all over the world. They interact with all international clients as well as the leaders over there. So we need to bring back the best practices done over there and the learnings to India in making most productive nation. IPMMA has initiated working in this area to a small extent. We are in the process of development of good engineering practices document, which will support pharma sector in having a best practices in engineering side. Second, industry need to have collaborative approach. I agree with Rahul what he said about R&D and the innovation space. We have a lot of things to do and we have miles to go, but we need to start somewhere. Collaborative approach with government funded research institute should be the first one, particularly with CSIR and NIPER, that's National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, for accelerating innovation focused research projects. Partnering with small digitally driven startups will also support innovation. If you see, even the IPMMA, we are seriously working and implemented also in some of the machines, the use of IIoT, there's a digital artificial intelligence, machine learning tools in there on all the machinery technology. And this will bring us in line with global scenario. There is a need to have a relook at our education curriculum. We cannot be a global leadership if we cannot have employable and the digitally equipped people. The pace of change in education system does not match with technology evolution. It has to be dynamic and constantly upgraded to meet the expectations. Industry and academia shall sit together in providing framework, and government has taken initiative in this through recently announced national education policy. Although it's a long way to go and get the fruits out of it, but it is expected to support intellectual capabilities and the growth of the nation. With the advent of digitization and automation, there is need to have a pharma engineering as a subject of choice in curriculum to pharmacy and engineering students. IPMMA has plans to collaborate with institutes in starting a certificate course in pharmaceutical engineering. This initiative will support in making students more employable and digitally equipped. The industry will have to reorient their strategies and explore more avenues in the niche, the drug delivery systems, biologicals, biosimilars, gene therapy, and move from generic dependency to develop of complex generics. Technology will play a major role in this journey. IPMMA is in the process of supporting growth by augmenting their capabilities and bringing more sophisticated technology-driven machinery meeting global norms. These initiatives, coupled with government support in creating a right infrastructure like industry-friendly policies, clear regulatory pathways, uninterrupted supply chain across globe, will make India a global leader in the times to come. Future growth and its sustainability will mainly depend upon the change of mindset, not only from industry, even from the government, among many other factors. And there is a saying, I do not believe you can do today's job with your yesterday's method and be in successful business tomorrow. This sums up the path forward for achieving global leadership position, both by pharma and machinery sector. Thank you, Prashant.
Thank you. Yeah, so as Mr. Rahul said, R&D is mostly, we are kind of lagging, maybe because of financial reasons or maybe because of other, issues. There's a question from Mr. Subhash Mandal. I would like Mr. Rahul, if you can answer that. What is the expectation of industry from the universities as you see, the universities are contributing in pharma research in UK and USA. Can we, see the same thing out here in India?
So, look, I think industry academic collaboration has been, it sits in the ecosystem point that I made. In many developed markets, it is quite common that professors in academic institutes work quite closely with pharma companies. In fact, many of them have developed molecules and new innovations in the pharma space, and then subsequently out license them to pharma companies, and even later owned small biotech companies across the world. Unfortunately, we haven't seen that same kind of basic research and collaboration in India. But I certainly think there is opportunity. It just requires someone to, take the opportunity and step up. There have been a number of collaborations. I won't say it is zero. There was collaboration on the malaria medicine with, I won't name the company, but on the malaria medicine drug, I think there are a few Department of Biotech funded innovations that are industry academic collaboration. So, I would say it is very, very small today, but I am hopeful that it expands over the few years, but I haven't seen too much movement in that direction.
Okay. Mr. Sunil, if we can, many of the small companies and the medium-sized companies, okay, for most of the research work and everything, they are kind of short of the financials don't work out in their favor. So it is either the government schemes or something like that, which, they look forward to. So from the private sector, is there anything which they can look forward to for, in terms of funding or in terms of any kind of loans and all for these kind of research programs and R&D things?
So Prashant, as far as any pharma companies' working capital requirements go, I think there are enough products within which banks provide today to fund their working capital, etc. And then specifically, talking about, just taking the point ahead of what Rahul is saying on research and innovation and things like that. I think the core problem probably in India is that, some of these things have to be funded by, equity, or it has to be, funded by some venture capital funds or a private equity, which can take these kind of risk to, fund these kind of initiatives. Probably, bringing to the same point that ecosystem, one which I think everyone spoke about is on university. I think the other ecosystem around funding through some of these private equity and venture capital funds, which is the risk capital, which we call it in banking parlance, that has to actually come in and show some promise for people to take bet on. And honestly, it is an ecosystem. So what comes first, is always a matter of debate. But having said that, banks will always restrict themselves to fund working capital and capex term loans, etc. As far as the next level of ecosystem, which has to be driven, which is more on risk capital, I think some of the other financial intermediaries will have to step in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Coming to our last, question, Mr. Kaushik, if you can, talk about this, the Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is, everybody's talking about this right now. So, what is the approach of the Indian pharma sector regarding, Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India?
Okay. But can you put on the video if possible?
Okay.
Thank you. If it's not possible, we can skip that and I'll go to my statements.
Let me just check.
If you can try for a minute, it's fine. Otherwise, it's okay.
You'll need to, Prashant, turn on the audio.
Yeah, the audio is.
You have to put a full audio.
No, what happens is in Zoom, when you're sharing your video, you have to, at the bottom, there is a box that says click to share audio. Then you have to click that as well. Otherwise, the audio will not come.
Just,
At more than 1,000 pharmaceutical companies. Manufacturing facilities in India are being constantly upgraded to meet or even exceed the standards.
I don't know. Is it coming now?
No,
Yeah, it's coming, but very faint.
Okay. So I guess there's some issue. Yeah, Mr. Kaushik, if you can.
it's okay.
Yeah.
The entire purpose of showing this video was the capability and the steps what machinery sector is taking to become Atmanirbhar and support this mission. But nevertheless, I will just speak out few things from video itself as what IPMA has to say on this. As all of us know, pharma industry cannot grow in isolation. Machinery sector has to grow simultaneously. We at IPMMA are working with our members to identify and support in government initiatives of Make in India. And now our PM has given one more slogan on 15th August, and that is not only Make in India, but Make for World. That's more appropriate. That's what I could see. First, we need to substitute the import components, what we use in the machinery technology as well as the pharma. And China, a lot has been talked. Already many steps have been taken and will be taken over the period of time to become self-sufficient. Although I have more doubts to in the near 2 to 3 years, particularly for API and KSMs, but sooner or later we'll have to do that process. There are several machine manufacturers from Europe and Japan who have set up their manufacturing base in China and other countries for the reasons well known to all of us. Indian government shall make all endeavor in making supportive policies so that foreign manufacturers gets encouraged to shift their manufacturing base to India. Many of our members are looking to foreign manufacturers for collaborations to bring most updated, sophisticated machinery to Indian pharma companies. This move will support affordability to MSME sector in their mission of automation in their manufacturing and packaging lines. India machinery industry is looking forward to government for some kind of incentives to expand their capabilities and capacities. This will reduce import dependency to some extent. We fully support government in Atmanirbhar mission and would continue to support government in achieving this objective. Although it's a very difficult task, but beginning has been done and we all have to work towards Atmanirbhar mission. And as rightly I said in the earlier, we are very optimistic in this mission. Thank you.
Mr. Rahul, your views on this, the Atmanirbhar Bharat and the clarion call of local for, vocal for local and then local to global.
No, it's a fantastic initiative. As Mr. Kaushik said, one must naturally, it is logical and, clearly beneficial to the nation. So certainly something that we must all go behind. So it's very good in principle, but, it requires concrete execution in my mind. I think if you just do a study of, let's say, some APIs between India and China, the viability gap can be as high as 10%. Right. And now, as we all know, it is good to talk about Atmanirbhar, but, not many people will pay 10% higher price for Atmanirbhar. So viability gap needs to be bridged. Right. I think the government can play a significant role whenever it comes to manufacturing API and pharmaceuticals. Power cost actually is a big challenge. The government can play an active role there. I think many of the investments in skilling and particularly in the pharmaceutical space, manpower cost is a large cost, and a lot of cost also gets incurred in skilling people. If government can step in and provide incentives for building skills and so on, that could be an interesting area. And then finally, I think for the bankers, our interest rates in India compared to borrowing globally, is always, creates a challenge in terms of the project finance and the IRR of the project and the payback period. So if the government can step in and I think someone said it in the beginning, consider pharma as a priority sector, and some of the elements of that, I think that would be something that is fantastic. So that's more the ask, but then certainly I think to put it to the team and everyone who's on the call, I think there are certainly opportunities. There are very big opportunities in fermentation. There are very big opportunities coming up in large volume APIs. It will be interesting times for anyone who is investing in this space.
But then, as most of the medical companies are saying that, if regarding API, okay, if it gets sourced from any other place, the cost gets increased considerably. So, I think Make in India, or what we call it, like not taking the APIs from China or some, or sourcing it from any other country. The main question is, are we ready as consumers to pay that much extra? So, Mr. Sunil, I just wanted to ask you, your views on this entire Make in India thing, which is there.
Prashant, I think we remain very, very positive on this whole piece, the Make in India, Make for the World, Atmanirbhar, how you want to put it. I always give an analogy of, automobile as an industry I think if you look at automobile, I think is one such industry which, so well knitted in terms of the whole supply chain, how the credit flows within the system. And I think if you have, and I think there are a lot of parallels to some of the industries which pharma industry can take in terms of how the financing moves, at least to just address Rahul's point about, cost of money, etc. Good part is that, India is as competitive today in terms of, borrowing. And there are various instruments. Issue probably could be on the size of the companies who can borrow at what kind of pricing. I think that definitely remains a challenge. So whether it is available to everyone within the ecosystem, answer is no. But whether is it available to the top-notch companies today or the large corporates, I think they have a lot of windows to raise all form of debt or equity today at extremely competitive, I think, pricing. But I still want to bring up a point on the value chain funding which happens, the supply chain in the automobile. I think that's the best use case, which I request that Mr. Kaushik should really study about how a vendor and a last mile consumer gets funded, and to the manufacturer it gets linked in terms of the ownership of the credit, the way it flows. I think it could be a great case study for any industry to try and build it. They would have done it over a period of years, but I always refer it because we as a company started funding Hundi, which was promissory notes of some of these Mahindra and Mahindra or Tata Motors and etc. We used to fund the smallest of the vendor who was supplying to some of these automobile companies, and we started our journey on financial services space from that. So I'm talking about this, goes back to 33 years about how this whole chain has been working. So I think there are many, positives which, across industry people can pick up, and as a bank, we'll be very happy to, portray some of those, financing models for in various pharma association or trade body.
Thanks a lot.
I'll just Prashant add on what you said just before Sunil came in about the pricing of the API if he sources from the other countries other than China. See, our idea is not to keep sourcing. Idea is to become Atmanirbhar. Until that time, we need to continue sourcing wherever is best possible. So process has begun. One is to really study the production link incentive scheme, which is floated by government. Those who identify 53 chemicals, key starting materials, bulk drugs, consider 53 number. and they are very detailed. They have explained the phase of the scheme and how it will take care. So there are already 2 bulk drug parks have come in, and they are going to be very selective in getting it, and accountability and implementation. As Rahul rightly said, implementation part is missing, and that we need to work on that. If we really seriously work on the implementation of the scheme as it is announced, and industry has to come forward, because industry has been saying right from beginning, we want incentives, we want something, and government has given them. So now it's up to industry to come forward and support government and take care of this scheme and make all workable as a team. That's what my stake on that.
There's a Nandita Vijay. If you are there, you had one question. If you can ask. Hello, Nandita.
I don't see any question in Q&A chat box.
No, she had raised her hand. So
Okay.
yeah.
I think Subhash Mandal had asked something.
That I already this thing, like
Okay.
the expectation of industry.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, there was one question. Mr. Rahul, if you can answer, what by Abhay Gandhi, what will be the market for API impurities?
You're on mute, Rahul.
Sorry, I don't have that number offhand, but if you put your email address in the chat box, I'll have someone send you that.
See, I answered it on a one-on-one basis under chat question answer to her. The market is big, but the volumes are very small. See, this has come up basically, the all impurities have come to the main issue during any FDA inspections. That's why I'm saying impurity selling is much more, but the volumes are very less, and the one has to really work out whether it is feasible to go in that market.
Okay. There's one question Mr. Sunil wants to answer. It's a very from Mr. Subhash Mandal again. Are you interested in financing startups in India?
Yeah, so we do fund startups today also, depending on which industry and the basis, the credentials of the promoter, etc. So I think we do that.
Okay. Yeah. So I
think
guess,
Nandita has come back. You can ask Nandita if she has any question.
no, I don't see her now.
There is one question I see in the chat box. What is the expectation of industry from universities? As you see that universities are contributing in pharma research in UK and USA.
Yeah, so that Mr. Rahul has already answered.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so since there are no more questions right now, so I would like to end this here. It's already, we have reached the time limit. So I would like to thank all the panelists, Mr. Kaushik, Mr. Rahul, Mr. Sunil, and all the attendees who were a part of this webinar. Thanks for being a part of this, and hope the attendees could take back something out of this webinar. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.